Is it because if you have primarily a bank that has a mortgage, you can decide wherever you want to develop, and there's no government legislation to say you have to build that? Is that kind of...
Well, yeah, you're right. On the policy changed 4 years ago, but until 2012, that was the way it happened. But let me explain you a little bit if we want to talk a little bit of housing economics. First, to build a home, single-family home, in one level, is much cheaper than to build it in high-rise. Okay? The cost of construction
for a single family,
even for 5. The price of a square meter of construction is lower because you don't have to invest in heavy structures. Okay?
But the unit cost, the per unit cost in Addis Ababa for one of those units, because you said the per unit cost here is about $12,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
The per unit cost of one of those houses in Addis is like $8,000 to $10,000 in a 5-story.
Well, it all depends. It all depends on what you put, the finishes, and so on and so on. It's complicated to compare from cost of construction from one country to the other. But I can tell you, in Mexico or in an actual situation, it's cheaper to build single-family units. However, it's cheaper for who? For the city, it's much more expensive. The one who pays all that sprawl is the city. The developer, he says, well, it's cheaper. And it is cheaper. You know, we've been doing consulting in this for years. But for the city, it's very expensive. And for the people, perhaps the home is cheaper, but they pay much more in transportation and quality of life. Their quality of life goes down. So that's one of the things. Also, when you have very high density and you don't have a land policy, the price of land starts growing. If you're in a free market, the price of land starts growing because the price of land is fixed, but what is fixed by what you can put on top. So if you can put more on top, the price of land, unless you have a land policy of land provided by the state. But we don't have that in Mexico, okay? However, we are trying to move to that model. It's not easy, but we're trying to move exactly to that model. Okay, so this is a high-income housing. Very nice, very modern, minimalism. Okay. So what happened? Monterrey, in the 70s, we had 95 inhabitants per hectare. We went to 60 in 2000, to 47 in 2007, and right now we are something around 42 inhabitants or persons per hectare. Very good.
So, do you know the history of this area? Because I think, I don't know if the area where we now are, it was land, or it was just like a group of industrial or real estate developers said, I think that land has potential and we should explore.
Let's say it was planned until 2000. After 2000, it started growing to these municipalities. That's why I tell you that reform in 1997 is so important. For Mexicans, for Mexican planners, that's the date, 1997. The constitutional reform that gave all that power to municipalities. Because we went, for example, these developments that you see here, they are in municipalities outside the city. And they permit those things. So there was, the city, this part was planned, but this no.
So,
the periphery.
And the part where we are was not.
This part was planned.
You mean this part by oriented?
Yes.
I mean, take and all the area around. I mean,
yes, it was planned, yes. It was planned, but let me tell you one thing. It was planned to have half the population we have right now.
But it was like real estate developers who put that on the agenda, or it was like a municipality?
It was both real estate developers. It was like a public-private partnership in this particular area, Valle Oriente. However, someone 8 years ago decided that the density should be doubled. Because density is good, so we just doubled density and now we have a lot of problems. Those were good ideas. I'm a very strict urban planner. Perhaps not very good, but very strict. So I'm very technical and I measure everything. Every decision has to be measured. Urban planning is not, it's not an art, it's a science. And so you have to measure, you have to measure the impact of things.
But we have bottlenecks in the tunnel. So because we know in the mornings and in afternoon where there are bottlenecks in the
Oh yes, yes. Yes, but this doesn't have to be with, it doesn't have to do with this area. That's a metropolitan street that goes all the way. It's a metropolitan street that goes all the way from here. So this thing, when I was a kid, the city should stop here. But someone decided in 1998, just after the liberalization, that, oh, open the development here. So this area started developing. It's very nice, a lot of trees. And so they started developing, and all these cars come from here, and they go through this street. So it's a consequence of this liberalization and this decentralization of decisions with no coordination. I agree in the decentralization of decisions at a certain level, but there is metropolitan things that have to be controlled, if you want, by a committee, not by one person, but there has to be a control.
Yes, the municipality finances real estate taxes here. They get their income, the revenues, the municipalities from the real estate taxes.
Yes, but very little, only 15%. Most of their income comes from federal funds. It depends. For example, San Pedro, this municipality is 45%. There is only 2 municipalities in Mexico that can pay their regular expenses from local taxes. San Pedro and Metepec. All the rest of the country, they live mainly from federal.
So they kind of needed to attract all this housing to get more taxes.
No. It's not good business for the city to have those homes because the local tax, for example, for a social income home, a low income home, the social tax you pay a year is about 300 pesos a year, and the cost to provide the minimum services is 6 times that, or 5 times.
But they never thought financially.
No.
They just cared that to have more people.
Yes, there is a good amount of corruption.
But doing what? Like attracting
Giving permits. Authorizing developments.
But why?
Why? Because they like money.
You are the government. I am a developer. I want this agricultural land magically turned into urban so I can build homes and sell them and get the money. I pay you a fee. That's all you need to know.
6 years ago, there was even a rate.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the rate?
For a big development, 4 million.
Pesos or dollars?
Pesos, 4 million.
To change from agricultural to a housing.
For about 20%, it's about like a rate of.
Well, I don't know the percentage, but that was okay. Let's move. Okay, the other part of the thing was that downtown we started having people getting older and older. Why? Because first, this is natural. downtowns to get old, it's a natural process. Because there is a home with 5 people, they live very happy, but they grow and they want to have their own house, so they move. And their parents stay there, and the parents start getting older and older and older, perhaps one dies. And not only the parents, not only the population, the house gets older, and the worst, the infrastructure gets older. Right now, the biggest infrastructure problem in the United States is infrastructure. It comes for trillions and trillions of dollars, as Mr. Trump likes to say, of all the infrastructure. Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, all those cities, their infrastructure underground is collapsed. And it's going to cost a lot of money. And nobody wants to invest in that infrastructure. But it happens the same in Monterrey. So all these areas are getting older, the population, the homes, and the infrastructure. Okay, and that was what was happening with land, but what happened with mobility? Well, the new economic and urban model, with the new model, the number of cars increased extremely rapidly. We went from 60,000 cars raised in 1997 to 2,200,000. And the vehicle rate went from 17.3 to 49%. That means that in Monterrey, almost everybody has a car, even babies. In San Pedro Garcia, there is more cars than people. Yes, there is more car registered in San Pedro than population. Yes.
Are you going to afterwards? I'm sorry. What strategy are you using to get customers back to the center of the previous slide?
Okay, that's the end.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the end of the presentation. I'm telling you the story, but at the end we're doing some things. You know? Okay, so this is terrible. It's just something you cannot deal with. Actually, it's happening all over, even in Europe. In Spain, the rate of increasing in the number of cars is growing so fast. And in Spain, didn't used to be like that. In England, the number of trips in public transportation going like this. It's an international problem. Of course, in Mexico, with no urban planning, with all these things, and also having less resources to solve the problems, it's worse. And all the public investment went to highways and freeways. Highways and freeways, highways and freeways. And you know, you will say to the mayor, Mr. Mayor, don't invest in highways. It's better to invest in public transportation. Okay, let's make a survey. He makes a survey, and everybody wants more highways and freeways.
Yeah, but because 50% have cars.
Yes.
So you could do that in cities that have low percentage of cars, but here 50% is the...
Because there are decisions that cannot be asked to people. Or you have to use a lot of education. If you want to be democratic, yes, okay, let's educate, let's explain. Let's talk, let's sell the idea that public transportation and private collective transportation at the end is better than individual transportation. Of course, a car is the most comfortable vehicle has ever been created. You know, now they even speak to you. They tell you, do you feel okay? Oh, you look beautiful today. No, it's true. I mean, you can have your coffee, music, radar. It's really comfortable. But it's not good for cities. Or, in a certain amount, it becomes a big problem. Yes?
You don't have the issue of microbuses here, do you?
Yes, we have.
You do have microbuses. I haven't seen any.
Well, because most of them are in the periphery.
In the peripheries,
Yeah,
okay.
in the peripheries, yes. because they can put very not many people. The government did a little bit. The metro grew 50%. Metro is very expensive. Metro is very, very expensive. And you need a huge density to make a metro work efficiently. With this sprawl of the city, the APK, passengers per kilometer of Monterrey, passed from 6.7, which was a very good number, to 2.47.
This is passengers
per kilometer
in the metro,
in all transportation, in all public transportation.
public transportation,
For metro,
and buses.
buses, and BRTs now. It's very good. If we could go back to this number, and that's our goal right now, to go back there. It's going to take us 30 years, but we could provide, the ticket would be a third, or the quality of the bus will be 3 times better. Yes.
So I just want to know, I mean, it's like you have the overcapacity in metro, or are you taking all the 24 hours or just like the peak hours? I mean, this.
No, the thing is,
They might have peak hours and then you use the full capacity.
well, the metro in peak hours is full. The thing is this, what is important in a public transportation system is that people gets in and gets out often.
This is
Yes. The best system is when the average person travels 3 kilometers. That's the best. It's very hard to attain. But to attain that, you need to have specific urban design that encourage people to make short trips, 3-4 kilometers. So that way people is coming up and down, up and down. And there is a lot of people per kilometer. But what happens in low density cities like Monterrey and many other cities in Latin America, not Sao Paulo, but in many other very low density cities in Latin America, is that you take the metro 25 kilometers from here and then you come all the way here. So there is not rotation. That's very important for the economics of the transportation system. Okay? There is ways to do it. There is ways to do it, but it's complicated. Everything is complicated in cities. Everything. Nobody, especially when you have 4.5 million people, that everyone wants to have a solution special for.
So just, I understand your point, but out of curiosity, how do you measure this 6.7? It means exactly what? On each kilometer of public transport that we have?
Yes.
On average?
The number, the measure is the complete network,
Okay.
and the complete number of passengers.
Okay.
And we used to have 6.7. Of course, this varies from BRT to this, but it's an average.
Okay.
If we could, because at the end, for example, in 1997, we used to have an average speed for cars in the city of 26 kilometers. Perhaps one was going 35 and the other 20, but the average was 26. Right now it's 19. So we've lost 30% of the average speed in private transportation. In public it's worse. Yes.
I mean, okay, I understand why the mayors prefer to build highways instead of public transit.
Because
No,
they get a cost.
I understand that. But why highways instead of regular streets, you know? Why
It's this idea of progress. It's been sold. You can see the campaigns like the governor, the mayor. It's like,
no, but this is so American.
Yes,
This cannot be a Mexican.
It's not only American.
It's not the Mexican. This is
It's
American.
It's the 20th century urban planning concept
In America.
in Europe as well. But not so much in Europe, because in Europe there is a historical tradition that directed a little bit some cities, not all of them. For example, Barcelona I was saying Paris, but no, Paris is not a model for that. Barcelona is a good model that grew with the old model. We're just going to show you that.
I just don't understand why highways and not regular streets. I mean, why?
Because
a highway is more expensive than a regular street as well.
It is speed. And also-
that's the American way. Because in the 20th century, well, I'll go back. Well, I'll come to this. Let me just finish this part. So, as you see, for example, this is Mexico City. It's too small. This is one of the things I added yesterday. We want, for example, Bogota. We don't see the figure very well, but Bogota has a 6.5 passengers per kilometer.
No.
Now, Mexico City in the BRT system has 11 passengers per kilometer. So that's 5 times better than Monterrey. That's why the price of transportation in Mexico City is lower. But also the density, the average density in Mexico City is higher. And people goes up and down fast. And they can do it because it's cheap, you know, so it's a system that we are going in the wrong direction in Monterrey. But we can change. We're not there. We can change that.
Well, this is just how it works, but anyway.
But what's happening is that, yes, we are following the American mobility model. But not only Mexico, not only Monterrey. Perhaps Monterrey is one of the worst, I have to say. But no, it's not the worst. Tijuana is worse. This is Los Angeles, you know. Oh, just add lines, more lines, and more lines, and more lines, and you still have congestion. Because the problem is the model.
Yes, but you knew the consequences of that in the 2000s.
No.
No, you knew, because LA did that in the 70s.
Yes, but let me tell you, I'm teaching this right now. And every time I say this, people think I'm crazy. Am I right?
You're right.
So, you have to use a lot of talking, a lot of convincing. Because people think that highways are better. Because a highway or a freeway is beautiful when it's finished. Because you go 100 kilometers per hour from one place to the other. But it takes only about 2 weeks for that to change. And that's not because what is important in a city is the average speed of movement, not the maximum speed of movement.
What it's funny is that whenever you go to the movies here, before the movie starts, you see at least 3 or 4 advertisements of cars.
Oh yes.
And it's always addressing the feelings. It's like you're gonna feel better, you're gonna be a better person. And streets are always empty. You know, it's the guy driving all by himself, and it's like, really? That never happens.
But let me tell you about the urban development model, because that's something important for those who are planners to get. Of course, if you've been in MIT or Harvard, you've heard this before, but this is not so common. Our model, there was the congestion tendency from 2000 to 2020. This is a projection. You see the red is over-congested. In 2000 was beautiful. And in 95 was perfect. There was no red in 95. In 2000, with all those cars coming, 2010 and 2004, this is the projection for 2020. That is really, we already are over this projection. But what do you see here? You see a main street, a freeway all around, main street with a lot of overpasses. This is what we call a tree system. It's an idea that somebody invented in 1930 or 1940, I don't know where, that cities have to grow as trees. with a trunk, with branches, and with little branches, and with little branches, and then with leaves. That's very beautiful, it's very organic, but it doesn't work.
Where was this developed?
In Europe, I think, or in the United States, I really don't know where's the origin. But the theory of a tree. So what do we do? We have the trunk, and we invest a lot in the trunk. We don't create a matrix system. Barcelona is a matrix system.
I understand. Like you mean there is a trunk and there are many branches. So this is the idea, one. And some people thought that was the
goal. In many countries. You know, I'm not going to go into that, but the concept of peripheries, you know the concept of peripheries? That was an accident in history. But now everybody wants to build peripheries. And it's very inefficient to build peripheries. But it was an accident because Paris had a wall around. And when they destroyed the wall, they said, well, let's make a street. And that was the origin of peripheries. And everybody started doing peripheries. And when you start analyzing with a mathematical model, you realize that it's not efficient. But people will do it. And one of the things is this. This is an actual measurement of the quality of movement in our street network. Local streets represent about 75% of the complete network. 75%. And only 5% of the local streets have an F. Do you know the service levels? Well, A, service level, A is perfect, F is terrible, okay? So in local streets, in Monterrey, this is true, has been measured, only 5% of local streets have an F or E level, bad congestion, only 5%. Secondary streets, they are like 15 or 17% of the total network, and half of it, it's in an F level. But primary streets, freeways, highways, they represent only 10 to 12% of the total network in square meters, okay? And 92–93% is an F level. What happened? We built the city as a tree. We thought, let's invest in primary, and let's invest a lot. Let's put overpasses and no flashlights, and so you can go 100 kilometers, and everybody wants to be here. And local streets are empty. You know, where I live, the peak hour congestion is 3 cars per hour. No, perhaps 12. And of course, I don't live in a very central area, but anyway, what I would say is that those are square meters of pavement, you know, but they are not well planned. Because of this model we created, community we work created in the 20th century. Now we realize that not the right way to do it. If you go to Barcelona, there is no primary, secondary. Everything is the same. So you can go from point A to point B, you have 200 alternatives. You take the one you prefer, the one you like, you want to go and see a friend, whatever. But here, no, you only have one way. And everyone, and that's what I found the craziest thing, even people who ride bicycle want to go there. They say, why do you want to ride a bicycle in a street that is polluted? And, well, because bicycles have a right. Well, let's put you in a nicer place, but anyway, that's a local discussion. So, yes?
Or maybe you can finish this.
No, well, so we can change this model. And I'm going to give you an example of of a city where we did the planning. Just two things. This is the metropolitan area of Pachuca, and this is how a matrix mobility system works. So this is we have freeways. This is, or no freeways. Car-oriented streets and transport, trucks. So this is the major system, and this is the rest of the system. So if you want to go, of course, here there was going to be an airport. This changes because there is no airport here anymore. But if you want to go from this point to this point, you have 100 alternatives.
Can you go back again?
It's very complicated. I couldn't explain it very fast because there is streets for transit, there is streets for transit and bicycles, there is complete streets, there is streets for or pedestrian oriented. It's a very but it's a matrix. It goes like that, and every street has a reason. There is an origin and a destiny, and a reason to exist.
It works.
Well, it's growing. Well, this is a model for the next 30 years, but so far it's growing.
What's growing?
The model, right now we're like here, and they are respecting this, and this area has a lot of congestion, and this area doesn't, because it's exactly what you were saying. There is many streets, not only freeways. And most of these streets are streets designed for 40 kilometers an hour. Not 100, not 80, not 60, 40, 35. Anyway, that's the way your average speed is like the way it's going to be. Okay. So I'm going to talk now about quality of life, the problem of quality of life in this area.
Before going to this
Yes.
slide, you were talking about urban sprawl and some settlements on a bit far away from the city center. But I always ask, and the answer is, all these settlements need services like water and electricity and internet. So how did you convince utilities to build in that area? Because they need to pay for all these services, and I don't know, and even the connection might be not that much in this area, because there are low-income houses, and the connection to these services, I think that it's not that much. So who pays for that?
Water and sewage is paid by the developers, so is electricity. And there is a tariff, a rate. You pay to the big water company to provide the major infrastructure. So utilities are not the big problem. The big problem is mobility infrastructure.
So
electricity, water, sewage, stormwater water management, and internet is no problem.
Yes, because you need like 20 kilometers to build the whole
Yes, but if your development is 20,000 units or 10,000 units, you can pay it. It's an economy of. The problem is mobility infrastructure. That's the big issue. Okay, another problem of this model we had is social segregation. And that's something many people don't talk about because they don't care too much, because that doesn't bother them. But it's terrible, because the city, now you have an area with low income, a huge area with low income, and the rich are in the best areas, and it started creating a big separation in time, in culture, in contact. So social segregation is something we have also to work on in order to avoid these problems we're having right now. This is an example, actually from Brazil, of social segregation. You can see But in Monterrey we have it as well. For example, here, this is where we are, high-rise, expensive buildings, and here we have in the mountains a lot of poor people. And you can see here as well, the richer people lives in the south, and the poorest people lives in the north. And every time they're getting more and more distance between one and the other. So after that, you should not complain if you have social problems. I mean, social problems is just a reflection of the city. And this didn't used to be, as we saw in the first thing. So what were the authorities doing? And this, I was the authority, So this is very true. Well, we couldn't do anything. Everything was controlled by the municipality. In 2009, we made a metropolitan development plan, and 2 of 17 mayors refused. And the plan didn't pass because 2 of 17 didn't like it. And they didn't like it mainly because of corruption. But the truth is that it didn't work. So we're still living without a plan. And that's a big problem for a city of this size. What was doing the authorities as well, we were investing a little bit in public transportation. In metro lines, for example, we started metro line number 3. It's been stopped for 2 years because we don't have the money to finish it. And also we have an independent governor now. An independent governor is terrible because the parties don't like independent governors. So there is no money for Nuevo León, so there is no money for the metro line anyway. And we started doing some BRT. Carlos, I know he's going to talk about Consejo Nuevo León. That is an institution we hope is going to help us restore the city. And what we were doing a lot of fancy projects, like Rio Santa Lucia. There's a river walk. It's pretty nice, I can tell you. We are very proud of this. And we were doing.
Can get better.
What?
It's a little quiet.
Now it's a little quiet, and maybe it's because it's in the middle of the week. Saturday and Sunday is crowded. It's like a paseo, yes.
I was there yesterday. It's beautiful, but I didn't quite see the point of it.
What?
I didn't quite see the point of it because, just for us to cross, from here to the Tec de Monterrey, there's no sidewalks. But that's one massive sidewalk that was relatively empty. So what was the thinking behind investing in this? I mean, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
It was part of a regeneration project for the downtown.
For the center.
Yes,
Oh.
because there is not only the sidewalk, it's all the infrastructure is new, and it's in order to promote buildings like this to be built there and to have higher density because we have metro infrastructure. And also, we have to say, one of the problems of Santa Lucia is there has not been continuity in the policy.
I think, if I remember, somebody said that this was a project from the state.
Yes.
How can the state be involved in such a project? Isn't this a municipal?
Well, of course, with our coordination with the municipalities.
But
the money came from the state. And the idea, there has been a bunch of projects downtown Monterrey. It started 35 years ago in order to renew infrastructure and to put some attraction downtown so the city the people starts coming back to the center. And this is part of this.
Like the plaza?
The Macro Plaza, that was very old, that was 40 years ago, but that was one of those. And the Barrio Antiguo, and Santa Lucia, and Parque Fundidora. All those projects are directed to attract population.
And what effects do they have? Because it doesn't seem that
Well, there's been some construction. There's been a lot of commerce being done there. But right now they're used mainly as parks, as public recreation in the region.
If you had to compare like the development, the last, let's say, 20 years, the things that have been going on in the last 20 years between downtown and San Pedro, what was the difference that caused that San Pedro like grew
That
in the worst
here
location?
was empty.
Yeah, in the worst location, and the other one.
Was empty. In San Pedro there was land with no construction. It is much harder to rebuild or regenerate an area, but I'm telling you 5 or 6 times harder to regenerate an area that is old, because the property is small and there is no resources and there is no investors. So the government has to invest in projects that are attractive for people. And so far, Santa Lucia has been attracting. There's been like 7 buildings built in the last. We have to remember also that we had a big tragedy in 2010, the Hurricane Alex, that collapsed the economy for about 4 years. And actually, the other project we did was the Rio Santa Catarina. This was a huge linear park of 20 kilometers long that disappeared in a day and a half. But it was supposed to disappear one day, because when you build in a river that disappears. However, we had like 30 or 40, 300 or 400 hectares of public space in the middle of the city that we could just rebuild it. Unfortunately, the next governor didn't want to rebuild it. But anyway. Okay. And that's the extension of the public transportation. It happened in the last 10 years. Okay. So now we can see what's for the future. First, we have new institutions. There is new demographic tendencies, there is new federal subsidies policy, there is new legislation, and there is a new spirit. What's the new institutions? The Consejo Nuevo León, I'm not going to talk too much because Carlos is going to tell you about it. But one of the problems we saw is that we had no continuity in the policies. So when governor came and they started working in this, and then yeah, it was very nice and everybody liked it, but the next governor changed the policy and he started looking at something else. So this is something is really bad. I don't know if it's only from Mexico, but I think it's more like a world problem. And that's why, that's one of the reasons of the creation of the Consejo Nuevo León. Carlos is going to tell you about it. But one of the things that Consejo Nuevo León has 4 main goals related with urban development, because it takes a lot of areas. One is to solve the water issues in a one water approach. Do you know the one water concept? No? The one water is that you cannot segregate sewage, water supply, stormwater management, agricultural water, and be operated by different people. You have to see it, look at it in a one water approach. It's complicated. There's a lot of political problems. Second is to reduce air pollution.